All right. Hello to everyone and welcome. My name is Carlo Bobilas and I'll be your moderator for this session. I'm pleased to introduce today's speakers, Solutions Architect Julio Guerrero and Casey Hamilton. But before I hand over the mic, I do have a few housekeeping items to cover about today's session. Let me advance the slide here. Today's session will be recorded and made available on demand after. We'll make sure to provide those details at the end. Also, we'd love to hear from you during today's presentation. If you are on WebEx and have a question for our speakers, please feel free to send it through the WebEx question and answer panel, where our wonderful panelists are ready to respond. And for those tuning into our live stream, thank you very much for joining in as well. Q&A is limited to those via WebEx. However, we will have a post-event Q&A thread over on the Cisco Learning Network, where you can post any follow-up questions you might have. So without any further ado, I'd like to go ahead and welcome our first presenter, Julio. Julio, over to you.
Thank you. So welcome everyone to today's session. Let me take a look and show you the presentation back again. So on this session, you will learn about the Catalyst Center, formerly known as Cisco DNA Center Virtual Appliance on ESXi. We will show you a little bit on what are the requirements, what are the scaling numbers. We will show you a demo on how to install it on the ESXi using the launcher tool. And after that, we will go over all the key features for Catalyst Center version 237, such as enhancement added for day zero automation, the third-party device support so you can get extra visibility over your entire network, and the new APIs introduced on this new code. We'd like to know more about your current environment, and if you can let us know what is the version of Catalyst Center you are currently running, if you are in 2.1x or below, if you're running in between 2.2 and 2.3.2 versions, if you are on 2.3.3 or above, if you're already up to date on the version 2.3.5, or you don't have Catalyst Center installed yet, please let us know. There's a slider where you can submit all your responses. Now, for today's discussion, as we mentioned, we will go over the Catalyst Center on ESXi details. And after that, Casey will take a look with you on all the new features with different personas that we have on the Catalyst Center feature set for NetOps, AOps, SecOps, and DevOps. So let's get started on Catalyst Center on ESXi. As you know, Catalyst Center has different form factors. You may be familiar with the physical appliance, with the AWS that we released last year, and the upcoming on-premise VMware ESXi. So this virtual appliance will be running on your ESXi VMware environment. Either you can do that on a vSphere or you can do that on standalone mode. It will have a feature parity with the DN2 and the upgrade process. Deployment will be very similar, as well as the scaling numbers. All the high availability for these VMware ESXi Catalyst Center will rely on the vSphere functionality. And remember, we will need to have our VMware environment with the proper licensing in order to set up the Catalyst Center on ESXi. Now, it will be helping you to have an improved way to deploy it. It will give you all the flexibility, will reduce the CapEx because you wouldn't need to have a physical appliance by. The cost of these Catalyst Center will be a not cost for you. It will come with the the licensing schema that we already have. So Essentials and will have these already. There are going to be a couple of limitations and restrictions with these Catalyst Center on ESXi. You can always take a look on the release notes. One of them is that we don't have a 3-node clustering is not supported. Some of the vSphere features, such as suspending and retrieving VMs, cloning VMs, having a snapshot as a backup, they are not supported yet. So this is what we have for now. And if you take a look on the specifications and scaling numbers for Catalyst Center on ESXi, you will see that we do require at least 32 virtual CPUs for the virtual machine, a memory of 256 gigabytes of RAM, storage at least of 3 terabytes of solid-state disk drive recommended, a storage bandwidth of 280 megabits per second, and IOPS between 2,000 and 2,500. For the server itself, we require you to have a vCenter ESXi 7.0 and a processor of Intel CPU at least of 2.5 gigahertz and above. Hyperthreading needs to be enabled. The RAM for the server plus hosting the ESXi and a virtual appliance needs to have at least 264 gigabits of RAM. And we will need to create two VM networks, one for enterprise, one for management. We will show you in a demo example of it. Scaling numbers for non-fabric deployments will come up to 25K endpoints, 1,000 devices, 4,000 access points, and 2,500 sites. For SD access, as you can see, it's very similar to the scale parity of the DN2, 25K endpoints, 2K devices, 3K access points, 2,500 sites, up to 500 fabric nodes, 64 virtual networks, and 100 IP pools. Remember, the latency required for you to manage the devices between your Catalyst Center to the network devices is up to 200 milliseconds. Now, there are two modes to deploy the Catalyst Center on ESXi. One is going to be the traditional or manual mode, where you will be able to download the ODA file, power on the virtual machine, and then go over the web UI or the CLI maglev wizard. So if you have deployed any Catalyst Center before, you will see that you will need to go over step-by-step configuration for the enterprise interface, for the cluster interface, set up your NTP, DNS, get the maglev password, and so on. There are a couple of steps that you will need to go over the traditional way. But now we also have the launcher mode. It's going to be a one-step deployment. You won't mind to do any web UI or maglev wizard configuration. You just need to set up a file, get the launcher executable file from cisco.com, and just a note in here. This will be available within 2-3 weeks. 2.3.7 version will be GA kind of soon. There is a phase rollout coming up, so you will be able to get it quite soon. And this will save you a lot of time using the launcher mode that we'll see on today's demo. A few months ago, we did deliver the manual mode, so I will share the link so you can take a look at the video on the Cisco Learning Network, okay? About the Catalyst Center on ESXi workflow, remember, we will need to download the OBA from CTO. Well, you will need to place the order. We will also share with you the ordering guide for the virtual appliance. So you need to know which SKUs you will be ordering. And then you will download the OBA file from your CCO. You will get the link after you get the order. You will create your virtual networks on your ESXi environment, either vSphere or ESXi standalone host. You will deploy the OBA, and then you will go over the configuration wizards as soon as you turn on the VM, and it gets ready to be configured. In the configuration wizard, you will go either maglev wizard or the installation configuration web UI. After that, you will get your Catalyst Center up and running. Again, this will take about 60, 90 minutes or so on to get completed. But now we also have the auto mode, the launcher app. The challenge, again, the challenge was to have a two-step process, deploying OVA, then configuring everything through maglev or web UI. Takes a lot of time and effort. And there was no verification of the ESXi resources. With the launcher app, we will be able to have a one-step process using the launcher script. It will verify the ESXi resources for you in case you have any error either on the inputs that you are getting in here or on the resources on your ESXi server. It will let you know that it is not capable to move forward, or you need to fix some of the entries that you have in here. We will review that in the demo. And the outcome is the automation of deploying the Catalyst Center on your ESXi environment. So you will be able to get some information for it as the host IP address, the DNAC info that you will be getting. It will get you to the GUI directly after we complete installation. And we will share with you also the default credentials so you can change that after the initial install. So with that said, we will go over the Catalyst Center on ESXi installation demo. Give me 1 second. First of all, as soon as we have this GA release 2.3.7, you will be able to go to software.cisco.com and get the launcher app. So it's a DNAC launcher tar file. So you will need to download that into the environment that you will be working with. And in my case, I already get it in here. Let me show you quickly. I have a ESXi host client in here. This is a standalone. So I downloaded the launcher. I unzipped that already. There are three options. You can get Linux, Mac, or Windows. In my case, I have Windows. There is another zip file here you need to unzip. In my case, I already copied that to the local disk C and name a folder called ESXI launcher. You can see there is an executable file, license, some other config files, and the config.json file. So these files you can see here is similar to the one that we see on our presentation. It will require me to get the host info. In my case, it's 198.18.134.27. That's the IP address of my ESXi host client, default port 443. I will need to define the path to the OVA that I have downloaded as well. You will get the link with the OVA. So if I go to my E drive here, I already have a folder in here, including a DNAG 237 OVA. If you see the file size is about 35 GBs of space, so please be patient when you are downloading it, okay? After that, you define the path with this format. You define the virtual machine name. In this case, I'm calling it Kali Center Launcher 1. There is no data center cluster resource pool or hostname needed because this is the standalone. We're not going on a vSphere, but if you do have a vSphere deployment, you need to set this up. Remember, every single entry that it's not needed need to go empty in between commas in here. So after that, I will set up the data store. If you see on my host data store, one is the one that I will be pointing to. The disk provisioning, in this case, I will be doing thin. Thin is to improve the resources that we will be using for the disk space. But for production, we do recommend to have the 3 gigabits available and then do thick provisioning. After that, you will define network. If you see on my networking, I do already have 2 VMs, one primary and one for management. Where I will be defining them is very straightforward. Require me one for primary and one for management. There's no cluster interface needed since the clustering is not supported on the data center on ESXi. After that, you will define the IP address. This is the enterprise IP address for your DNA center, the netmask, the gateway, DNS servers, proxy. In my case, I'm not using any in this environment, entity, and a fully qualified domain name that I have not defined yet. So you will save the file because it is the one that we are having it in the same folder that I showed to you before, the ESX launcher. This is a file that I just saved. And then we will open up command prompt. So I already moved myself to the ESXi launcher folder. We can do a directory. You can see there's a DNAG ESXi launcher.exe. Let's open this one, and then we will call the config.json minus D. This is to avoid a certificate check. In my case, since this is a demo environment, I need to do it that way. And it will ask me for the username on my host or vCenter. So let's go with the username. It will ask me also for a maglev password. Remember to save that properly because it will be asked when you get through the maglev access. And then I will do the same for this. And I will confirm the password. It will validate everything. It says, okay, data store 1 doesn't have the free space, at least for almost 3 terabytes. But again, I'm doing thin provisioning. It will not cause any problems. It will say, okay, the config file is valid. It will give me all the details that I have defined on the file. As you can see, it's all the same. I'm defining the IP address of my data center and everything is good. So I will say that, okay, I wish to deploy this and my ESXi environment. I will start doing the OVA deployment. And you can also go back to your ESXi. You will see that there will be on the recent tasks, there's going to be a trigger of the setup of a new virtual machine. This will take about 20, 25 minutes or so. And after it gets completed, you will see, let me get this quickly here. The output after the new VM is completed will say, okay, it is configure the parameters powering the VM. The virtual machine has been powered successfully, so your DNAC has been configured successfully too. It will take about between 30-45 minutes to boot completely so you can access the GUI, okay? So for ease of time, well, you will see the process is going here. You can also monitor that on the back of your ESXi host client. But for ease of time, I will share a video on what happens after it gets completed, okay? So as you can see here, the maglev appliance, it's up and running on this virtual machine. You can see that, and you can log into the maglev with the password you have defined. You can go directly to the IP address that you have defined as enterprise. You will see the connection is not private. You need to go proceed. It's unsafe, and you will be requested to get the credentials. The default credentials for a Catalyst Center on ESXi, it's going to be admin, and the password is maglev1@3. I'll show you in a second. So it's maglev1@3. Remember, these are the default credentials. Anytime you deploy a new VM, this is how you will get in. Right after, you will be asked to create a new username. So I will create a user for me with my name, last name. I will get a role as super admin, the username, email that is optional, and I will get my password written down. And remember, after you define this first user, the previous admin will be deleted, right? So if you want to create another admin, sysadmin, whatever you want to get another set of user for admin, you can create that on users and roles when you get into your DNA center. As soon as I complete my new username, it will get me back to the login page, and I can log in now with my username of Hulger. So I will type my password, and it will take me over the initial setup of the Catalyst Center. Now, if you notice, I go straight to the configuration mode on the Catalyst Center. I can get my CCO credentials. I can skip that in here. You will get the user license agreement to be accepted and go next. And you can start working on your network configuration. It will tell you can do some device discovery from here. You can add credentials, but I know as a best practice, you can go over the network settings, do all the proper configuration, go to the main menu, go to settings as well, system settings, configure your Cisco credentials, smart licensing, your smart account, and everything that will be needed for you to start onboarding your devices. And after that, you will be able to start monitoring and configuring your device from the Catalyst Center. Okay. So after you get a credential, you will be able to register and get the updates for this Catalyst Center itself. So let me go back here quickly. Okay, and just to let you know, this is one of the VMs that I have already created as a VM. This is a functional Catalyst Center. And as you can see, this one has been rebranded already. It's one of the latest versions we have on 237. And let's give it a minute to pop up so I can show you. You can also take a look on these about where you can see the version we're running. We're at 2375. But if you take a look in the serial number, it will tell you this is a VMware Catalyst Center, okay? Perfect. So from now, I will take you back with Casey so he can show you some of these new features we have on Catalyst Center 237. Thank you.
Thank you, Julio. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. 1 second here. All right. So I wanted to cover with you the key features of the new 2.3.7 release for Catalyst Center. Um, I'm going to cover it based off of persona. So you may work in network operations, AI operations, security operations, or DevOps. I'm going to cover each of those. First, starting with NetOps, and then going down the list of the new features related to each persona. So first, we have improve efficiency. We're going to cover third-party device generic MIB2 visibility, which is going to give you a bit more details related to gaining information from a device that is a third-party device in Catalyst Center's inventory. And then also we'll go over visibility and control. And we'll cover the C9800 wireless controller, day zero onboarding template support. So previously it only supported day in templates, but you can now with 2.3.7 use day zero onboarding template support, which is a really nice feature because now you can use PNP to go ahead and deploy your configuration to the 9800 as you need. And then we'll go over the ABC and QoS auto enablement. Then we'll jump over to AI ops and go over the improved performance persona, where we cover event analytics preview dashboard. It's a really nice tool. You'll see it uses AI to come up and sort through various events, because there could be a lot of events depending on how your network infrastructure is running. So it really helps the AI ops team work through it, different issues. And then you have your third-party device support for wired assurance. We'll go ahead and cover that as well. Then we'll jump over to SecOps to improve security and policy, where we cover the new automation for SD access. We'll cover the new dashboard that's present in 2.3.7, and also the ability to revert back to the old dashboard. And we'll go over a little bit of the workflows for SDA that have been added to the new dashboard. And next, we'll go to DevOps to improve service delivery. We'll cover the new APIs that have been released in the 2.3.7 release. So let's start with NetOps. Third party, it's common for IT organizations to deploy devices and systems from multiple vendors, but doing so can add a lot of complexity and make management difficult. Catalyst Center customers often have a third-party devices and firewalls and would like visibility for those along with their Cisco gear. Now you'll be able to go ahead and put devices into Cisco DNA Center or Catalyst Center's inventory and see the information such as discovery and inventory support, device uptime, limited visibility of device and topology, the interface up and down status, the name of the vendor, be it Cisco, HP, and then device 360 limited view. Third-party devices added to Catalyst Center have limited visibility only functionality and are not supported by Cisco TAC. So before you weren't able to look as much into the details of third-party devices, but now using SNMP MIB2, you're able to look at a lot more information, including where third-parties devices may reside within your topology, which can be really helpful, say, if you're troubleshooting an underlay issue that's preventing an overlay from working for SDA correctly. So visibility and control. This feature provides a solution to further secure your planned network configurations before deploying them onto your devices. So we'll see the preview configuration in action in a live demo in just a second. And then with enhanced visibility, you can enforce the previewing of device configurations through CLI and netconf commands before actually deploying them. And then you can also, with enhanced control, Catalyst Center offers more control over how your services, over how your devices are configured through an IT service management for approval checking. So this could be ServiceNow. If you have that integrated, what it'll do is before it's actually deployed, you can send it over to ServiceNow for approval. And then once it's approved, then it'll go ahead and automatically deploy the configuration to the specified network devices. And then we have our C9800 day zero onboarding template support. Here we can see that now onboarding templates are supported. Right here, you're able to, when assigning a template to a network profile, you're able to select the template, and then when you go to PNP, you're able to actually select the wireless profile that was created and then deploy it out through PNP. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the lab. And show you the version we're running, so 2.3.7.0. One thing I want to point out is in 2.3.7, we have a theme. So you can switch to dark theme now, which I think is really neat. I know I prefer dark, but I'm going to keep it at light for now. But, if you feel free to click the admin and then go to theme and then toggle this, and you can have a dark theme if you choose to use that. Next, let's go to our, let's see, we'll go to design and then network hierarchy. Actually, I'm going to go to design, network profiles, and then we'll see our wireless profile here. It's already configured. I did create a template, and basically what that template does is it is a day zero template. So if I go to attach templates, we can see that now I have the ability onboarding configuration 9800 day zero template, and then click add. So now this is added, and then when I go and use PMP, I can actually provision, it'll give me the option to provision this wireless template along with all of its other information. So SSIDs, AP zones, model config, and advanced settings. Now I can also configure additional configuration that goes along with it, which is really nice, a huge time saver. And then, so for templates, basically, you can go to Template Hub, and we can see our day zero, the 9800 day zero template right here. If I click on it, it has some configuration here. One thing is to make sure when you go to add, let's say I want to add like a new template, make sure if you want that template to show up, make sure that it has the ESXI version, and then it also has the device family of wireless controller 9800. One thing to note, this is only supported on 9800s. It's not supported on other wireless controllers, just the 9800s. Then I could click add and then go through the additional details and then configure the day zero onboarding template. Make sure also that it's under onboarding configuration project. This is the default project where all day zero configuration templates apply. So make sure it's here. If it's in another folder, that will be referred to as a day in template. And it won't show up in the day zero onboarding template, which is used when using PMP. Also, day in configuration templates don't show up in day in zero templates don't show up when you're actually provisioning devices through PMP. So make sure that it's specified as the day zero onboarding config template. So with that, let's go ahead and look at a configuration preview. So if I go to provision application visibility setup, and then I go to network device enablement, I can see that Edge 2 currently doesn't have CBAR deployed. So CBAR is somewhat similar to NBAR, NetFlow. If you've worked with it, it's used for application telemetry tracking, and it's also used for AI endpoint analytics. But what it does is it collects information, it deploys CBAR out to the device, and configures Catalyst Center as a collector. And what I can do here is go ahead and enable it. So enable on select device, yes, and follow the workflow. And then I can click enable, and then it'll have a generate configuration preview option. If I click apply here, it's going to take me to the configuration preview section. And it'll also, once it loads, it takes just a second. And if I was deploying this to multiple devices, it would go ahead and run through and configure the configuration preview for all of the devices. And then I could go ahead and look at it. Once I click deploy, if I had ServiceNow integrated, it'll send an approval request along with this configuration right here. So whoever is involved with approving it, they can go ahead and review the configuration, hit approve within, and then it'll go ahead and schedule it for the specified time, whether it was now or a later date. It'll go ahead and push that configuration out. You can hide the line numbers if you choose to. You can also search for various configuration within. And then once you're ready, you click deploy, and it will go ahead and click submit, and it's going to deploy CBAR out to the devices. Okay, so one other thing, if you're configuring, this happens, the generate configuration preview happens with not only CBAR, it's pretty much everything that deploys a configuration. So intelligent capture, SDA configuration, template editor, provisioning, PNP, all that stuff, it'll show you a configuration preview, in which case I highly recommend integrating ServiceNow, it'll go ahead and send that information over to it. So with that, I'm going to bring back up the demo or the PowerPoint deck, and we'll go to poll number 2. So what features do you use currently? Select all that apply. So feel free to pick any of these that you're currently using. It can be more than one answer. So we have A, PNP, B, the 360 views, client 360, device 360, C, assurance event viewer, D, APIs, or E, none of the above. So now let's jump over to AI Ops. Next, we have our Event Analytics Preview dashboard. Event Analytics Preview dashboard uses AI to provide network administrators insights into the events that are most relevant to them. With this, the really awesome thing with this feature is there could be thousands of events happening that Catalyst Center is collecting from tons of network devices. And what you might be able to, what it does is it's able to crunch data and get your attention to focus on ones that can be pressing, how common these issues are, how high of an issue, like how high of an impact it might be having. Is it high, medium, or low? As you can see right here. And then you can sort it by time as well. And then you can also observe, we'll see this as well, you can observe how it's how the issue is improving over time, which is really neat. Most of this is collected through syslog, and you can, and there's a graphical representation that we'll see within Event Analytics Preview, and it's going to show a graphical representation of how those syslog messages are looking, which sites they belong to, so where they're coming from, and specifically within those sites, what devices they're coming from. So we'll look at that. And also note that event data retention for events is increased to 60 days, giving the users greater visibility. And then we have our third-party device support for assurance. So you can also, third-party devices are supported for wired assurance now. You can monitor and troubleshoot third-party devices from the overall network and device 360 assurance health dashboard. And by default, third-party devices are mapped under the core device family category. And then you can view issues generated by third-party devices in the issue settings dashboard. Here's a little representation of how that would look for a third-party device. You see its device health is 10. Previously, you wouldn't be able to see its device health. So this is a really nice feature to check out your third-party devices and how they're acting within the network. So next, I'm going to jump back over to Catalyst Center. And this time, I'm going to click the menu icon and then go to Assurance. And then I'm going to click Issues and Events. Next, I'll click Event Analytics Preview. And it's going to give me a preview here. One thing to note, this is just a preview. So this data isn't live right now. This is a preview of how the data will look. If you want to actually enable this feature, what you'll do is you'll click the menu icon. You'll go to System, Settings, AI, Cisco AI Analytics, and make sure that AI Network Analytics is enabled. And then also you click Configure here. So make sure AI Network Analytics is enabled. And then make sure that the Event Analytics Preview is enabled. This feature can be enabled only if AI Network Analytics is enabled. So make sure to enable that up here first, and then you can enable that, and then it'll start crunching data from the past 60 days for you. So with that, I'm going to go back to Assurance, Event Analytics Preview. Let's take a look at the dashboard. So we can see here that one thing with the table is if we can see for high issues, which is in pink, the darker it is, the more accounts it has. So this is a really good way to, excuse me, to look at it. Is the darker it is, this is a really good way to zone in on the actual severity and the occurrence of the severity. So over here, we can see uh, a dark purple at around 10 a.m. And it's dark purple, meaning it's happened greater than 52 times at around 10 a.m. So this may be an area that I would want to look into right here. The same thing goes for medium. So we have our severity, Sev 3 or 4's medium severity. You can see it gets darker closer to around the morning as well. So that would typically make sense, as that's when everyone's getting on. So this kind of area may be where I want to focus in on. And you can actually click these and it's going to populate data below to show you what's going on. And then you can also move this slider right here, and it allows you to zone in on various issues. So if I wanted to, I could take this little toggle, this blue line right here, and then move it over to say like 8 a.m. Then I can move this over to 11 a.m. and focus on this area. See how I can improve it a bit. Below, we have our total events with high severity, medium severity, and low severity, and it's showing the amount of events where high severity events have 1.6K events. So, and then below, you have our high severity events. So as you can see, these are a lot of events, 1.6K events to look through. The real power of this feature is it shows you, hey, out of all of these events, what's the main issue going on? Spanning tree BPDU guard, it appears. So this has high severity, high impact, and it may be something worth looking into where I can see which devices are actually being affected by this. And we'll see below how to actually look at that. Another thing is we can look at rare events, so events that may not be happening as much. High volume events, so 802.1x fail, seems to be the top high volume event. We have our message volume increase, which is also showing what's recently increased, 802.1x as well. Then we have our message volume decrease. This shows you how issues are improving over time. So let's say that I was able to resolve this BPDU guard issue. I would expect that BPDU guard would start showing up here, message volume decrease over time. And then we have our new events, which is showing link up down. So really good way at looking at trends. So with that, we have our message type. So the rest, we have our threshold issues, we have our system, our seklog issues coming up. So and if I wanted to look at spanning tree and see what sites or devices were selected, the spanning tree would show up here if this was a live graph. And then basically what'll happen is it's going to show the message type. So this is the issue, and then the site that it corresponds with, and then the device under that site that it corresponds with. So that's how the syslog messages work. And then below, you can actually see this in a little bit more detail. We can see the actual device name here, and then I could click the device and start using various troubleshooting tools within Assurance and sort out what's actually going on. So a really neat feature, check it out. With that, I'm gonna jump back over to the PowerPoint deck. 1 second here. All right, next we have our SecOps feature. So this is dealing with the new SDA user interface. It's basically it's meant to help things go more fluid when it comes to your configuration of fabric sites, virtual networks, transits, even wireless SSIDs, anycast gateways, fabric zones, port assignment authentication templates. There's all workflows for these now, which make it a lot more easier. I know some issues where it can get a little bit confusing is things such as like anycast gateways or fabric zones or multicast. Having this new interface and workflow makes it a lot more intuitive. That way you can go through your configuration of SD access and it goes a lot more smooth. So this is the new features related to it. I'm going to jump over to the demo and show you how this actually looks. So let me go over to provision. And then we have our SD access, fabric sites. And you'll notice this little icon right here, the blue. This is indicating that it's on the new dashboard. By default, it'll land here. If I wanted to go back to the old dashboard, I could click this icon and it'll take me back to the old dashboard. So I can see that I have one fabric site configured, and I can also create a new one from here. If I created it, it's going to take me through the new workflow for creating fabric sites and fabric zones. I can also get information on, say, creating fabric zones here, and then I can scroll down and look at fabric site tasks. So what's happened within the past 7 days? Let's see. If I wanted to see what happened, I could click this. So editing layer 3 network virtual networks. So some configuration of virtual networks happened. I could click view details and it'll show me some information on what actually was configured, and then X out of that. Also, we have our creating IP-based fusion. So that's the creation of a transit network, an IP-based transit network with our fusion device. So nice little timeline tool to see what's happened and what may have failed and what's currently in progress. Some more workflows that you can do are, we have, configure multicast and create a fabric site. So you can, here's a workflow for multicast. And then we have also our create fabric sites. These are tasks that have actually happened already and or are pending. So it's like halfway through a step. If you are, say, halfway through a workflow and you need to access it later, you can exit the workflow, scroll down, and refine the workflow based on the time you're working with, and it'll take you back to that. So similar to here, we saw the bar was almost complete. So we are at the summary page. Click through and see what's actually being enabled. Then I can click next, and it's going to take me to generate configuration preview, that feature we saw earlier. So I'll go ahead and exit out of here, and we can go back to SDA. This time I'll go over to virtual networks. Excuse me. Show you the layer 3 virtual networks, and then we have our layer 2 virtual networks, and then our Anycast gateways. This is how the new interface looks like. And we can see we have our workflows that we can go through to configure these below, workflow library. And I can also transition back to the old view where it lists all the current networks that are created. So here we have our layer 2, our Anycast gateways, and then our extranet policies. So, and then we have transit networks as well. So we have one IP-based transit network that's been configured. I click it to get more information, which, as you can see, brought me over to this menu. So we have our Fusion IP-based transit using BGP, and that's about it for the SDA workflow of the new UI. One other thing is, if I go here, I can filter my fabric sites by global. So I would be able to, change it if maybe I had, some fabric sites that were configured under a different site other than global, more granular. I could go there as well. And lastly, let's go back over to the PowerPoint deck and cover our last persona, which is DevOps. And I want to go over a few new enhanced APIs that have been released in 2.3.7. The first one is a devices API. It's used to get device information, stats information. So as you can see, a lot of these are version 2. They are updated to give you more information than was previously being collected from the APIs when you use it. So to get device interface stats information, you would do a post method over to the DNAC cluster enterprise IP address, and be DNA and 10 API v2 network devices. And then here you could specify a variable for the device ID and you can reference that within your programming code. So the device ID would equal a certain value, and then it's going to reference that variable value here and input it, and then interfaces, and then it's going to do a query for the device information stats. Similarly, we have our site APIs. So we have a get site version 2, cluster IP, and then you just go through the URL, very similar to previous. And we have our get site count version 2 has been updated to give you a bit more information. You'd use the same method here, and then get devices that are assigned to a site has been updated as not updated, it's been released as well. So now you're able to get devices that are assigned to a site. It's at release version 1. Then we have our compliance APIs, so you can get configuration task details, so get cluster IP, and then you also have a commit device configuration, so you can click post, and then network device config write memory, so this will go ahead and commit device configuration and do a save on the devices that you choose to. And then lastly, we have our LAN automation APIs. So you can perform a LAN automation stop and update devices by doing a put. So new method using put. And then you can do the LAN automation. It's not a new method, but it's one that I haven't called out before. Put's been part of it for a while. So you just do the put method, cluster IP, DNA intent API version 1, LAN automation, and then you'll use that device ID there. And then we have our LAN automation device update. So here you also do a put and then LAN automation update device. So there we go. And I'm going to go over to the dashboard for APIs and how to work with them. So to access the APIs, you can go to Platform, Developer Toolkit, APIs. It's going to load a list of APIs. Here we have our API breakdown. There's APIs getting released with every new version of Catalyst Center, and they're organized based off of these folders here. So if I wanted to work with event management, I could go here and look at, say, create syslog destination or SNMP destination. I could go to site management, and then, or I could, what I find to be the most easiest is create site. You can just like search for it and do a site. And 1 second here. So here we have our new version 2. You'll notice anything that's been updated to include more information, it's going to be listed as V2. So 2 of the ones that we covered from that PowerPoint deck was get site version 2 and get site count version 2. I'm going to show you the get site version 2. You can see our method is get, has a little description of it. And if I click here, it's going to give me the URL that I can actually use in my programmatical code. So, and then it gives me a request for query parameters where I can use this data. And then I'm going to go to responses. And what we are expecting here is a 200 response. And if you get anything like a 400, 401, that indicates some issues that are going on, or say 300 or 500, there's some errors going on. So we're expecting a 200 response. And then in this format, we're expecting the response. And then what I could do is do a code preview. So if I actually wanted to, test this out, I could then use it within code itself and see how I might apply it to the code and do some automation with it. And then if I click try, so it's going to get site version 2 and it's going to give me a bunch of information. I can set the offset, the page ID, the type, and I can also set a limit for how much sites I want to collect, and then click run. And that's going to populate a bunch of information based off of what I currently have within Catalyst Center. So here you can see we have our group name hierarchy. It's set to global United States. I'm not going to go over all this information, but it gives you a breakdown of all the sites that are here in which you can use these sites to say, add create a fabric programmatically through APIs once you collect the sites, so that you can define various values and say use that information to assign them to variables that you can use for other tasks when you work with APIs for Catalyst Center. So that is it for the demos. Let me go back to the PowerPoint deck and cover with you the Catalyst Center upgrade path. You can see here it starts from 1.3.1 and goes forward. I believe most of you are most likely on version 2 or greater by now. The key thing I want to note here is the jumping point to 237 is 2.3.5.5. To get to 2.3.5.5, you have 3 avenues. You can go from 2.3.3.7 and make the jump over, and then you can upgrade to 237. You can also, if you're at version 2.3.2, you don't have to upgrade to 2.3.3.7. You can go straight to 2.3.5.5. And likewise for 2.3.4, straight to 2.3.5.5, and then you can upgrade to 2.3.7. So we're getting near the end of this presentation. I want to go over some key points to remember. Catalyst Center on ESXi comes as a new virtual form factor that speeds up deployment and operations for customers. VMware vSphere's high availability ensures the continuous operation of your Catalyst Center device. And then third-party device support provides greater visibility of the entire network. As you can see, it is added to the topology, and then you can view more information in assurance. LAN automation has been upgraded to allow 5 simultaneous LAN automation sessions at a time. So more performance improvement there. And then many new API calls helps you enhance the overall network experience by optimizing end-to-end processes. Next, I'm going to go ahead and hand it back to Carlo, where we're going to post a bunch of helpful links for the new 2.3.7 release and answer any questions you have. Back to you, Carlo.
Thank you very much, Casey. At this time, we'll go ahead and take questions. So as a reminder to please be sure to type your questions into the WebEx question and answer panel. All right, so looks like we do have a few questions, and this first question will go with Julio. Julio, how much does Catalyst Center VA for ESXi cost?
Hey, hello, Carlo and everyone. Well, the Catalyst Center on ESXi has a specific SKU that you will review on the ordering guide, and it will be provided at no charge. It will come with the Catalyst Essentials and Advantage software licenses.
Thank you very much, Julio. All right, next question. Let's go with Casey on this one. Does Catalyst Center on ESXi offer high availability support?
On ESXi, it does not, but it is able to use what you'll be able to do is use vSphere to configure that within vSphere itself. So directly from the 3-node cluster perspective, you're not able to use it for the ESXi, but you can configure multiple appliances and communication within vSphere. I did send a little link on that previously where you can review, and it shows you how to actually configure it within vSphere. So feel free to take a look at that.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right. Next question, we'll go back to you, Julio. Is Catalyst Center VA compatible with ESXi cloud servers like Azure, VMware Solution, or AWS, Google Cloud Services, or even AWS Cloud?
Well, as for now, and as we mentioned at the start of the presentation, we have the on-prem, we have the AWS, and now ESXi. There's not support for hypervisors on cloud platforms, but if we need, if we know anything about data support in the future, we'll let you know.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, back at you, Casey. How much time does it take to deploy Catalyst Center VM on ESXi?
On ESXi, it usually takes, I would say, about an hour, about 60 minutes, so not too long.
Awesome. And back to you again, Julio. Can I add any third-party device to Catalyst Center?
Well, only third-party devices supporting SNMP MIB2 will be supported with some limitation, as you know, for base automation and assurance features.
Awesome, great answer. Okay, and then Casey, let's do this one for you. Is it mandatory to use configuration preview?
No, it's not. You can go ahead and deploy devices or configuration over without actually looking at the configuration preview.
Okay, next question I have here, Julio. How long is the data on the event analytics dashboard accessible?
Well, the event data retention for events has been increased to 60 days. So it will give you greater visibility on what is happening on your events.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Let me see. It looks like we've covered majority of the questions. Let's see if there's anything else. There was one question about if the slides will be available, and yes, the slides will be made available as a downloadable PDF. We'll make sure to put that with the recording when it gets posted on Cisco Learning Network. As far as today's session, it will also be made available immediately for playback on our YouTube live stream link, or there's a page on the Cisco. I'm sorry, there's a page on YouTube from our Cisco U channel, so we'll get that posted into the chat. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and open up these questions to any of the panelists. So feel free to unmute your microphone here. Is there an API inspector planned like on ACI so that you can see the XML or JSON URL and parameters where the mouse is clicking?
So I am not aware of any feature like that yet, but I'll look around and see. We'll have a community link here after this call. I'll see if that's in the work. So it sounds like, if you hover your mouse over it, you're looking for an inspector view where you can actually look into the details of the resource, right? So I'll take a look at that and see if we have something in the works for it, and then I'll notify you.
Thank you. All right, next question here, and it looks like maybe the last question is there, or is the 60 days configurable to extend or reduce?
So the 60 days, no, that is not. So that is configured, and by default, it is mandatory. So you can't change the amount of time. It'll be 60 days.
Awesome. And I think that covers all the questions for today's session. Let me go ahead and place some important links in the chat. So again, you'll see the where the video from today's session will be made available. That takes about 3 to 5 business days, but we'll also include the PDF, downloadable PDF, as well as the post-webinar discussion thread where you can continue the conversation. So if you do have a question and we just didn't cover it today or would like more details, feel free to go ahead and jump onto the Cisco Learning Network to engage with the subject matter experts. And then the last link I included is a YouTube stream link. Again, that is if you want to go ahead and play back the video from today's session immediately. It should be made available right after you exit. Okay. Well, once again, I want to thank our presenters. Did you guys want to say something before we wrap up?
Thank you, everyone, for joining. I hope you learned a lot from this session. Thank you to all the panelists. Hope to see you guys again soon. Talk to y'all later.
Awesome. Thank you, Julio. Thank you, Casey, our panelists, and the whole team for bringing your knowledge to the Cisco community. Again, if you have a question, please do join us on the Cisco Learning Network for even more tutorials, demonstrations, and future webinars. That link to the post-webinar discussion thread is a great link to bookmark. At this time, your feedback is important, and we do encourage you to take the time to participate in our survey, so you'll get directed to that as you exit. We thank everyone for joining us today, and we will see you next time.